used to watch this perfect couple. They were the embodiment of true love. I want to start my life over again. I saw her. I saw her from the train. She was with this man. Just for a second.
Is this her?
To a woman so heartless.
Can you tell me where you were Friday night?
I was in the city, and then I went to visit my husband.
You mean your ex-husband? It's my understanding that the woman who has gone missing was his nanny.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Megan.
Rachel, why are you here?
Because I'm helping find Megan.
I don't think you're helping anybody.
I saw your wife with someone.
Megan has a therapist. Is that who you saw?
What happened that night in the tunnel? Tell me the truth. I read once that when a train hits, it can rip the clothes right off of you.
How could you be so honest?
You were seen in the area that night.
How could you be so honest?
Did you murder Megan Hipwell?
No.
How could you be so honest?
Just tell me what happened that night.
How could you be so honest?
Why are you here?
Because I'm afraid of myself.
Guys, I cannot even tell you how excited I am that you're here because, I mean, you guys read Girl on a Train, right? Hello? Yeah? I was one of the many, many thousands, millions, however many who read it. And when it was over, I was like, it was like almost like a death in the family. Because when you read something that amazing, how do you follow it up? At what point did both of you realize that it could make a good movie?
Well, I don't think I think about writing in a cinematic way. I'm very much a writer's writer, and a lot of what happens in the book actually goes on inside people's heads. So that wasn't really what came to my mind, but it actually did get optioned really quickly. I mean, in fact, before the book was published. So it became a thing quite early on.
Well, I read the script and the book. DreamWorks called me, and I was not aware of it. I was in a hole writing something else. And I read the book, and what excited me so much about it as a storyteller is, yes, it's a thriller, but the characters are so rich and messed up. And that was just irresistible for me to have something in the genre of a thriller, but yet it's such a character piece.
I read a lot of thrillers, especially, for some reason, thrillers written by British authors, I think, are just a cut above. And what made yours stand out for me so much was just the unreliable narrators, for one, the time shifts, the voice shifts. How do you take that and turn that into a film? Because it's incredibly challenging to even make a coherent book out of it, which you very much did.
Well, the reason I didn't try and adapt it myself is because I wouldn't have known how to. So I'll hand you over to Tate, because he knows.
The question was how?
Yeah, when you take such a multi-layered piece of work with so many different voices and so many different time shifts, told by a blackout drunk, how do you adapt that into a coherent movie?
It was tricky. I think the main reason, I have dealt with multiple narration before, but these women aren't in scenes together. So usually you get to hand the torch to the next narrator or point of view, but in this one, that was what was really tricky, was you would leave one of your three leads, and you would just leave them and have to find a way to try to elegantly shift to the next one. And it was a great challenge, though. I really learned a lot about editing.
And you directed The Help.
Right.
Um,
Thank you.
which I think is safe to say was Emma Stone's like really big. I mean, that was her kind of breakout role. What made Emily Blunt right for this? 'Cause you seem to have an eye for
Well,
leads.
playing a character as flawed as Paula created, you have to root for that person, no matter what, or it just won't work. It'll be too much. And there's just this likability of Emily Blunt that is just inherent in her as a person, and her skill. That is, I mean, she's really messed up, but you somehow
also, when you get to
root
the
for
bottom
her.
of her
You wanna
story,
just-
you feel
just-
bad for her.
You want to kidnap her and put her in a straitjacket and take her to the beach and just feed her soup and say, just come on, get with it. You know, but it takes a certain actress that makes you feel that way.
I wanted to add that I think she's done an extraordinary job because playing a drunk without making it look sort of ridiculous and
When
comical.
you're stumbling,
Yeah.
and falling over and slurring,
That is not an easy thing, and she's made it sad and depressing and shameful, which is exactly how it was supposed to be in the book. That's what that character is all about, self-loathing and shame, and Emily's managed to somehow bring that through beautifully.
And to Paula's credit, you know why people behave the way they do. Often in stories like this, you just see the net result, but you don't see the cause and effect, and that's why I think it really works.
Oh my God, Paula, your book, and I want to go back and reread it. Just the more you learn about that character and the more you learn about why she is the way she is and why she's done what she's done. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give it away, but wow. I mean, did you know when it came out that people would respond to it the way? Did you have any inclination?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was hopeful, and I'd been thinking about that character for a long time, so I was kind of in her head for a long time, and I wanted her to be true, and her voice felt right. But I was never sure that other people would understand her or care for her or, you know, want to follow her story through. So I've been pleasantly surprised, particularly that the book did so well over here, because to me it was quite a sad, depressing British little story. But actually, Americans seem to have quite liked it anyway.
Well, I think it really holds up a mirror to people too, as you know, you think that you have your drinking under control, and then one day you don't.
Yeah.
And how do you know that?
I think that's what a lot of people can sort of relate to, because, okay, you might not be like her, but you could see a situation in which you might stumble in the same way that she stumbled. It's just something sad happens to you and you lose your way.
Now, Tate, going back a little bit to Emily not playing your stereotypical stumbling, falling, slurring drunk, she was also pregnant during the shoot, which I know she's been very open about, and that obviously prohibited her from even having, you know, a couple of shots of vodka to like loosen her up. So how did you guys discuss the way she would play drunk?
Well, she didn't tell me, first of all, so I thought she was incredibly boring. I kept trying to get her to have a cocktail with me, and she made up this crap about how she thought if she was going to play an addict, she should be really sober. I was like, that's just a missed opportunity. We talked, I mean, the very first meeting, actually, I met Emily the same day I met Paula, and I just said, we need to lean into this. It's a part of this story, and we have to do it right. And everybody's been touched by addiction in their lives, and I just thought it would be a real disservice to not show it truthfully. But, you know, a lot of addiction is secret drinking. Even in the book, she tried to hide it from herself. And, you know, and so it wasn't about, you know, doing shots of vodka and stumbling down. It was the pain of addiction, the state, the mental state of despair that you were in, and we focused on that, the loneliness, and then I wanted it to be in the film where you wondered if she drank that day. And there's a point where the therapist asks her, and she just kind of
Because remember, she does stop
just
for
kind of
like
look.
a hot
You
minute.
can't tell if she feels busted, judged, angry. You just that's addiction.
Did you have Emily watch any addiction-type movies or shows to kind of prep for it?
She's told everybody she's seen every single episode of Intervention.
That's uplifting viewing.
That's fun. Yeah. That's really the main, she has said that's the main tool.
And what kind of guidance did you give her? Because so much of her performance is so physical.
You know, the way I like to work is you just don't rehearse that stuff. You just let it happen on the day. And we had 4 levels of intoxication. It was like the TSA color code system. There was 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we talked about it in those levels. And the physicality would increase. Level 4 was physical. But it was, I think that surprised Emily, that is the emotional work that she did became very physical. She was completely worn out at the end of each day. And it wasn't from running or stumbling, it was just the despair.
I mean, I can imagine being in that headspace for 16 hours a day, especially while pregnant, is probably, I mean, when you're already you're heightened emotionally to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Good job, Tate. Well done.
I told her to get pregnant.
Paula,
A
when
secret.
you watch the movie, what goes through your head when you see your characters brought to life like this? I'm always so curious because you're, like you said, you didn't write the book with a movie in mind.
No, it's strange and thrilling. I think it's a really faithful retelling of the book. It's a faithful cinematic retelling of the book. So it's just it's like an out-of-body experience, really, to watch these people walking around that lived in my head for years, to actually see them going and doing their things. But at the same time, it kind of feels separate from me, as though it doesn't. Not that it has nothing to do with me, but it's a very separate piece of work that's been created by somebody else.
How involved were you? I mean, were you on set every day? Did you come once a month? Did you separate yourself entirely?
No, I visited twice, because, I mean, the set was here and I'm in London, so I came a couple of times.
And I think it was for the shopping, and then, oh yeah, they're making my book into a movie as well.
I should do a courtesy drive-by.
Yeah.
And speaking of, the movie was shot here, and I know that there's been some talk about the location change. I personally think desolate suburbia is desolate suburbia. It doesn't matter where you are. It could be the German suburbs. It could be anywhere where it's just these anonymous homes. So what made you change the location?
The change of location predated my involvement. But what's funny is I shot all of these cool beauty shots of New York, you know, and then as I put the film together, you just didn't need them. It just didn't really matter. The movie is on a train and in these women's heads. And then I went back to your book, and Rachel just kind of talked about London. It wasn't a huge character, was it?
It isn't.
She wasn't like going out partying in London.
The city doesn't really feature in the book. It doesn't feature in the film. The location is really the commute. It's the train. It's the suburbs, as you said. And as you said, that's quite a universal thing. I think it's one of the reasons the book has traveled, because people recognize that. You don't have to be in New York or London. You could be anywhere. So I'm not upset about the location change. And I think when people go and see it, they will forget about it very quickly.
I've taken the Metro North a million times, and you go past people's houses all the time, and you just sit there and wonder, like, what are they, what's going on behind there? How did you come up with the rest of the cast?
The way I cast, it's of course I want, someone needs to be talented, but really it's about.
You think?
Yeah, but
You're like, nah, they just need to be pregnant.
It's about, really, it's whether I want to eat dinner with them or not. Honestly, the way I work is very social. It's a lot of intimate time together, cooking meals and talking about the character and just really breaking it down in a social setting. And if I don't want to eat dinner with somebody, they usually don't make the cut. But it's really, that's how I work. We talk about the characters as if they're a friend, and it's a social way of rehearsing.
So what was the production like? You guys just hung out, had dinner together, met each other's families?
I think it would shock people to know how fun and loose the set was. Movies are too hard to be serious, and it was a social, fun environment. And then when it came time to do the serious work, it was that. And then we're cutting up and playing jokes with each other.
Did it impede, though, when people are that close in real life, and I know Justin Theroux and Emily are really good friends in real life, to have that tension and that dislike on screen, the dramatic tension, does it matter if people like each other in reality?
I think it helps it. The few scenes that Emily's character has with Justin's character, you just sense the history between them. You sense him talking to her as a former wife. You sense that they used to have conversations like this in bed together. And I think you can't help but let a real relationship bleed into an on-camera relationship.
That's really interesting. And I got to ask you, Paula, as a fan, what are you writing next?
It's another thriller. It's I haven't got a title yet. It's hopefully going to be out. Yes.
That's what it's called.
It's hopefully going to be published late spring next year.
Hurry it up. That's not fair.
Yeah, that's quite soon enough. Thank you.
And what about you, Tate?
In my business, you believe it's happening when you're having an omelet on set the first day. There's about 6 things, one of which could be first, but it has not been determined yet.
Do you naturally gravitate towards a certain type of project? Because you seem to really thrive in ensemble situations.
I love ensembles. Altman's work, some of my favorite. I just love multiple stories intersecting and figuring out how people are connected. And I do. Those are the movies I like. I like tons of story and lots of character.
Paula, for you, when did you know that this book was finished?
Finished. Well, somebody else tells me that. I need my editors to tell me when, no, it's done. Because I find it very hard to judge my own work. I never know whether something's good or dreadful. I mean, I have a sort of a feeling for some parts of it, but yeah, I need somebody else to help out on that.
I can't believe that oh my God, that book is like perfect.
No, it's not. There's loads of things that I could have done better, but thank you for saying that.
And when you read the book, what was your first thought in terms of turning it into a movie? What did you the hook for you?
Well, one of my favorite things about the book and the character of Rachel that was frustrating that I did not get to bring to the movie was I thought she was really cool and fun and self-deprecating, and she cracked me up. She did. If you think about it, the way she talked about her drinking, and she would convince herself maybe I should, and talk about how hungover she was. I thought she was just so fun, but this movie spit all of that out. It just didn't fit to have the lighter, fun moments. I mean, I thought about, could I have Rachel have a friend, just lamenting about how, oh God, I got drunk again last night, but it just didn't work. And in the book, I just thought Rachel, I just loved her more than I didn't like her. She was just so truthful.
I loved her too. I just didn't really think she was funny. So I love your interpretation.
I thought she was hilarious.
It's just very dark.
I am.
You just wanted to go have a drink with her is what you wanted to do.
Right now.
And let's turn it over to our audience, please.
Hey guys, so my question is actually for Tate. When you got to film the movie, like, was there anything that stood out to you when you were filming, like after you read the book?
Stood out to me meaning I'm so excited I get to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for me, what was fun was taking things in Paula's book that were not as elevated in the book because they didn't need to be, and then looking for those. It was great to go back to the book when I needed certain devices to tell it cinematically, and had to invent some things, but the kernel of that invention was in the book. That was really a lot of fun. Like the Lisa Kudrow character, she in her book, she just briefly mentioned, Rachel briefly explained to us that Tom used to say how she would embarrass him at his office parties. And to get that, go back to the source material and mine for things that you wrote, and then to take them and make them into scenes is fun. In many ways, it feels like a good accompaniment to the book. And that happened a lot. nothing was purely invented. It was taken from what you didn't know would be a scene.
Next question, please.
Hello. I have a question for each of you. For Tate, what was the most difficult part of the book to bring to life on screen? And for Paula, having seen the finished product, what was the most surprising thing you saw visually compared to what you wrote?
The toughest part bringing this to the screen was so much of the narrative and the drive of the book, you don't know what it is. So you have to cinematically create the unknown and what could have happened, and it's tricky. It's tricky.
And the most surprising thing is that, I think actually what I really enjoyed when I saw it was how sort of shocking and surprising and suspenseful it was. Even though I know what's happening, it still had that it felt fresh to me. The scenes felt like I hadn't seen them before. So that was it is genuinely terrifying at the end. And that's for somebody who kind of knows what's happening quite well.
And one final question, please.
Hi, thanks so much for being here. I was wondering, was your favorite parts of the book the same as your favorite parts of the movie?
That's really hard to answer. I think the movie draws out different emotions and different things. There's a scene in the book where Rachel goes to Anna and Tom's house, and she takes their baby and takes it outside. And when I wrote it, that was just like scary and creepy. And when I watched Emily actually go and pick up a little baby and comfort it, it was scary and creepy, but it was also really sad and moving and beautiful. So I think I have slightly different reactions to things, but that's the great thing about a cinematic retelling. It brings out different emotions in you.
What about you, Tate?
I have to say I love that one too. Filming it that day and just really going for it, making it creepy to serve the genre was a lot of fun. It really was.
I applaud you because this is one hell of a book to film, and even the tiniest supporting character, I think you cast such a quality group of people. Like, there's no throwaway actors, there's no throwaway characters, which is really a feat with a book like this.
Thank you.
So, and when can we see it?
This Friday.
In theaters everywhere.
10 a.m. is the first show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.